Welcome. It's episode 129 of About the Cards podcast, live tonight on YouTube. As always, with me, Stefan Loeffler at Junkwax Twins.
Oh, hi.
Ben Wilson at our trading cards, and I'm Tim Shepler at Big Shep 79. We are a podcast by collectors for collectors, hoping to bring you a smart and insightful podcast because of trading card collecting. We're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook Live. Follow us on Twitter About the Cards. We're available as a podcast everywhere. Check out the website aboutthecards.wordpress.com. We have a very special guest hanging out with us tonight, Nick Vossbrink. You can always follow him on Twitter at Vossbrink. Nick, welcome in.
How are you doing? Glad to be here.
We're very excited to have you in the show tonight. So we're gonna have a lot of fun talk tonight. We talked last week about an article that was posted that you're a part of, and we wanted to get into that. But give us a little background on yourself and your collecting history.
Okay, so I started collecting like most of us here. Started collecting late 80s. So went to my first game in 86, started collecting got a card collecting set in 86 for Christmas, and started buying packs and getting into it in earnest in 1987. And so kind of rode that junk wax wave until I sort of gave everything up after the strike happened. And so after a couple decades of taking it off, my kids got sort of into cards and sports and started asking questions about stats and things, and we started looking at cards again, and that kind of brought me back in. And also a large part of that was my kids, and a large part of that was also actually the SABR Baseball Cards blog reminded me of all the things that I loved about collecting, actually, before getting sidetracked into questions about value and certain rules that were floating around in the early 90s. And it was fun to get back into it and realize that reminded of what I did like as a kid, and reminded that my interests that I developed in the time since then of printing and photography were pretty much things that I almost learned by collecting cards in the beginning as well.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, very similar story. I mean, almost identical with mine about the not getting in really in 86, 87, and then out at the strike point. Do you have any personal collections or any teams or guys that you personally collect?
So I have two main collections. I collect Giants, not nearly as hardcore as Ben collects A's, but
the best team in the Bay.
It's kind of like they switched places from the 1980s, when in the 80s everybody liked the A's and the Giants were this team that was about ready to move, and now it's the opposite in the Bay Area. But collect the Giants, mainly flagship releases, so Topps and Bowman and the older stuff. Not hardcore across everything else, so it's nice to kind of have a Giants type collection of sorts, where like one card from every release or whatever that I come across is kind of nice to keep the binder with some variety. So I've been doing that, and my search list is sort of stabilizing around needing all the like Willie Mays and high number cards from the 60s and stuff now, basically. So those will get picked off slowly over the next, however many years, because they're not that expensive, but I don't know. I don't feel like going crazy and buying, a bunch of $20 or $50 cards all at once either.
I started because I have my Royals Topps collection from 69 through now, but I wanted to go back and do the Giants, but I decided to start at San Francisco Giants versus trying to do any of the New York Giants teams. I might go back and grab one card from each one of those earlier sets, just to kind of fill out a page and say, this is what the team set would have looked like in the early years. It's because some of those cards are crazy, especially trying to track down the Willie Mays.
Really just the Mays, actually.
Yeah, if you didn't do the Mays and you didn't do the high numbers, especially from like 52, I bet, because who else was part of those teams between 52 and 58?
Monty Irvin.
Yeah, the Monty Irvin 52 is rough.
And
actually, it's the team card from 1956 is rough, and everything else is actually pretty reasonable.
Vic Wirtz.
Yeah, I don't think, but a lot of it's just your desire, You
Yeah,
wanted
I mean,
it
there's
to happen.
so much I need to go back and get, and it's one of those things like it's like at this point I've chosen not to, but it's not. I'm never saying never. I'm not ever going to go after them.
But 54 tops are also kind of expensive, and when I say expensive, a lot of them are $4, $5, $6 each. But if you've got to go out and grab 27 of them,
Well, there's actually not that many of them. Like there's only 10 1955 tops ones.
On the 55, what about?
Because they're kind of like there's a bunch of Bowmans, but it's like because the tops and Bowman are sort of competing for players. So after you get past 1952, which is a ton of people, especially in the high numbers, the team sets are actually pretty small for the most part.
Okay, Nick, let me ask you a question, and this is something that wasn't on the topic of things to ask you tonight, but it came up the other day because obviously I get trolled a lot because of the 85, 87. I was talking to our good buddy Lanny the other day, and he asked me about the 51 Bowman Mantle versus 52 Topps Mantle, and which one would be considered the actual rookie card. So since we're on the topic of Willie Mays, who happens to have that same issue, I would imagine you probably lean towards the 52 Topps, but just from your, I don't want to answer for you. Do you think that the 51-52 debate was hurt at all by the fact that Bowman only ran through 55 and then stopped? And to this day, Topps is still considered flagship?
Yeah, no, a lot of people sort of sleep on Bowman, and most of the Bowman cards, except for maybe the 53 series, which is probably the best looking set of the 50s, are pretty good, pretty affordable, actually. You can get the Bowman cards for a lot cheaper than Topps ones. A lot of people kind of treat them like they don't know about them or they don't take them seriously. And so there's actually a lot of good, I'll call them bargains basically there because those have been pretty easy to build and you can get them for a couple bucks for most of the commons. And there's some designs like the 55 TV set, which sort of take a while to grow on you. I remember thinking it was pretty cheesy when I first saw it the first couple of times. And I've come to like it since, but like Bowman is a little bit weird because it changes sizes a couple times, and it seemed like I didn't take it seriously really until I got into it, and I've been building those kind of and actually paging them together with the Topps because you can put together the lineup of Topps and Bowman together and kind of have a full lineup instead of us having like just the 10 guys like in 1955 Topps. But yeah, I'm solidly on the side that if you're doing the rookie thing, the 51 Mantle and Mays are the rookie card. Because Bowman is, for my view, as much of a flagship set as Topps is in this case. In some ways, it has more guys, but it's interesting that neither Bowman or Topps actually has the full range of players. Like Mantle switches between the two, and Ted Williams switches between the two, and stuff like that.
And Musial did too, didn't
he? And
he?
Musial was like not in Topps until much later and things. So like, if you want to have all the stars or a comprehensive look at who is actually playing, you need both brands.
Now that's the thing about that today. I mean, we don't have that now, but if you think back, say in the '90s, right, when we had everybody competing, like how interesting that would have been with Topps, Donruss, Fleer, Score, Upper Deck, battling out to get stars.
Yeah, like if you could only get Eric Davis in the Upper Deck or Mark McGuire was only in Topps or something, it'd be a very different way of us collecting because we would be trying to get not necessarily all the sets, but at least all the players.
Yeah,
it'd also be interesting to reflect. I mean, obviously, there's no way of knowing this, but to reflect back, and it might be fun for like a roundtable discussion of how that would have impacted what's now known as the junk wax era. If there were player exclusives, would they've just made even more for 87 Topps McGuire's for us to collect? Because now you don't have any Donruss, Leaf.
Well, what if it didn't exist? Ben, what would you do?
Well, I wouldn't know about that.
Anyway, but what if you did? You were a time traveler and went back and you changed it.
Like Steph.
Bring all your...
One of these days, we're just going to get a Steph's DeLorean and head back in time.
Yeah. So, Nick, we talked last week about the SABR 50 at 50, the baseball cards.
Yes.
The article that came out. And I looked through. It was a very interesting read. I liked how everything was not the most expensive card or the most popular card or the hottest card at the time. I mean, there was some really, first of all, picking the George Brett All-Star from Donruss and 83 was super cool. But there was just it was just a lot of eclectic stuff. And so how long did it take to come up with that list? Because, it's easy if you say, hey, we're going to start and we're going to run 50 years and we're going to do just tops. Boom. Or 50 years, we're going to do the best rookie card, or 50 years, we're going to do the best star that came out that year. What was it like to go through and to build that out?
So, it started off as basically like a top 50 list, and then a bunch of us in the committee were kind of talking about it and decided that was kind of you have this. Oh, that's okay. Kind of a boring way to go, I guess. People have been running top 50 lists or top whatever lists on stuff, and there's a temptation to go purely on value or purely on rookie and everything else. And that didn't feel, none of us really liked that idea, and it didn't feel quite appropriate for what the community was doing. In that the community is very much about sort of baseball cards and how they interact with being a baseball fan, and both as an entry into the sport and as a way of kind of recording what's going on in the sport. And we tend to shy away from discussions of value and investment or whatever kind of things, where it's in there in the sense of how much you want to spend on cards, but it's really not the motivation that any of us has for why we collect. And it's not, and for the most part, it's not even the common culture of the card is that. And so we settled on, one card per year. And then it turned into just sort of looking at each year and like, what happened this year? What happened in cards? What happened in baseball? What is worth talking about? And trying to spread it around. And so like the George Brett one was one where 1983 is the Pine Tar game. And so it's kind of like, that's sort of like in hindsight, that's kind of like the highlight of 1983 in many ways. I'm sure that, if your team won the World Series and everything else, that's it. But for a general baseball fan, like what happened in 1983, like, that's a big deal. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, well, what, and if we're going to choose what Brett card, like what else is like also the Action All-Stars was like the first sort of oversized junk wax weird set of its sort that came out. And so just kind of combining what was new or different or notable about that year and just kind of taking it year by year.
Yeah.
And so some years had a bunch of stuff, and some years were kind of like, oh man, we got nothing for this year. We need to start really asking people like staff kind of, especially when you get into the 90s. Which
I liked the 90s when you did the Reggie Jackson autograph card, because that's the first time that really we had an autograph drop in a product. And then it was like in the 91, you have the Stadium Club with Nolan Ryan in the tuxedo, which blew my mind as a kid, right? Like that's a crazy card. I find that is probably that's my favorite ever Stadium Club design, and I think it's because of the blue ribbon with the nameplate. For whatever reason, makes me just love that design. And then you do 92 gold tops. Like when that came out, it was like, what? This one's got gold. Like, it was, as a kid, these were all like game changers to me, right?
We were all in the bathroom with a flashlight trying to figure out which ones, which bubbles to rub off and everything.
Yeah, and so I loved going through this list. You talk collector's choice, like nobody likes collector's, like everybody goes out collector's choice, but very cool. To involve some of that, like tops ERA leaders, E-tops. Like I wasn't around for E-tops, but all the information, all this stuff that's out about that,
Especially
Royals great Mark Tejon,
There was a conversation I was having, and Nick may or may not remember the particulars about it, but somebody had mentioned something. I think it might have even been a one-off from a Project 2020 conversation. This was a month or two ago, and it's funny about this particular blog post versus that conversation, because we were talking about iconic 1980 cards, and I kind of just chimed in. I'm like, if you're going to make a list of 1980s cards that are iconic, and I was trying to think, 80 would obviously have Henderson, 81 would have the Fernando Valenzuela, 82 would have Ripken, and I listed maybe 15 cards, and Nick's response was, it bothers me that all of those except for one that I had listed were rookie
Billy
cards.
Ripken.
And I was like, yeah, Bill Ripken. And I was like, I wasn't trying to make an extensive list. It was just kind of like, if you're going to make a list, for me personally, and it's just my list, I would think that would be the jumping off point. And it's not to take anything away from the Jay Johnstone or obviously the phenomenal Glenn Hubbard, with Snake and Johnstone with the big Budweiser hat. And there were a lot of iconic cards that had nothing to do with rookie cards or even players that mattered. Oscar Gamble's, what year was it? 76
traded.
76 with the big hat or a big afro. Yeah,
Big little hat.
Yeah. There are some phenomenal cards that we love to collect for another reason than they're just great cards. The 91 Walt Weiss tops, where he's jumping in the air but it's interesting that we had that conversation not too terribly long ago. And then the selections you guys made with this particular post, by and large, weren't rookie cards. Throughout the 89 and throw out the 80 Henderson and
we had four or five. We had we still had about five, like a handful of rookie cards in there. The 80 Henderson, 81 Valenzuela, 89 Griffey Jr., the Alex Gordon.
Yeah, you can't make us.
You can't talk about the rookie cards.
Yeah, well, you can't talk about 89 collecting in 1989 without Upper Deck or that card.
Yeah,
and the fact that it was the number one card in the first year of a set, and he became who he was. There's a lot that goes. There's a lot behind that card.
Yes.
So that card kind of like it's not the 52 Mantle, but it has a lot of history with it. There's a lot of meaning with that card.
For our generation, it almost is. It's that one that we all wanted. Although, Billy Ripken is also a very close competitor.
Well, when we did the most iconic cards, obviously, from eras, we had the Wagner as the pre-war, the Mantle as the vintage, and Griffey represented, the junk wax era with the Trout representing the modern era. And, if Upper Deck came around in 1984 or 81 with the other, Donruss and Fleer, and Ken Griffey Jr. was number, 104, would it be as iconic as opposed to being number one and it being the kid and it being, the first year Upper Deck? It's there were so many, perfect storm that made that such a masterful card, and then the fact that he became the Hall of Famer that he was, it's not like he turned out to be Andy Pafko,
But also his personality too, is he was actually that player that as kids we all liked because of the way he played.
Wore his hat backwards.
Yeah, it was not just that he was a good player, but he actually had that extra level of charisma that made him special. And so the whole package was the Griffey Jr. is like it's partially overhyped and it actually is legit too, where it's the appeal is there for many reasons, not just because it was a rookie card of a Hall of Famer.
I can tell I didn't get my first one until February of 2015, and I actually got two within like a week of each other. And I can tell you, I was happy as I would have been in 1989. Getting that card. And since then, I picked up a couple more just because I found them like under $20 in great shape. I'm like, I can't leave that card behind for a price of a blaster. I just can't because it means so much more.
Well,
so give us a little background. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way that makes you feel is the same way I feel when I get a new 1988 Topps Big Maguire in the mail.
And I was going to tack in, there are far worse, as has been established, there are far worse number ones than Andy Pafko.
Hey, I was just saying. With Bruce Willis.
Pafko is just more of a throwback to we were talking, 52 Topps being the first year, so it being the first year of the flagship run, unless you count the 51 blue and red backs. But
give us a little background on SABR. What is SABR? and how do you get involved in that, become a member and be involved in that community?
So, in some ways, I'm actually the wrong person to ask, but SABR is the Society for American Baseball Research, and so it's for people who are pretty much interested in baseball and researching aspects of it. And there's a bunch of different committees that you can be involved in them. So from really, really geeky kind of like stat and number crunching stuff to researching photos and writing stories about games and everything else. It does have a bit of a reputation as sort of like the stat stuff has kind of given it its own reputation. But in many ways, the Baseball Card Committee has turned out to be kind of the gateway drug that gets people in the door to SABR because they realize that it's, in many ways, first and foremost, a community of baseball fans. And so at its heart, it's people who are interested in baseball and going beyond just the current season, so to speak, and actually into what baseball means and has meant to us growing up, connecting to other people, connecting to other generations, etc. And so
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's one of the ones where like when people find out like the baseball card committee is one of that people find out that there is a SABR committee for that, and then they start seeing what we're doing, and it's less about publishing research and things like that, and a lot more of kind of an oral. Everybody has their own oral history of how they collected or what's interesting and everything else. And it's a way and it is kind of SABR light, but it's also at its heart the idea that we pretty much talk cards, talk baseball, talk about how these little bits of cardboard and things remind us of what we grew up with and the things we did with our parents or our friends or whatever. And that's sort of what it's all about.
Very cool. You said earlier that you have a background with photography and printing, and so give us a little basic overview. What can go wrong in the printing of cards? Because I know Steph's always sending you, like, asking you questions, and it's great because Steph sees, like, oh, this one's missing a period after USA on the S, not the U and the A, or crazy stuff like that. So give us a little background on like, what you've seen and how things like that can go so wrong. Like this year, an update, like half the cards on a Topps update were, it looked like they were, the paper was, as far as I can sense, it seems like the material was put in upside down, like when you print backwards when you're trying to print out a document at home. So
the update one is really weird, and not knowing exactly how Topps does. I have my guess as to what happened on that case, but I guess like in terms of what can go wrong with cards, it's sort of about like what basically anything can go wrong on the whole process. And so it's like, and we've all seen it. You have problems in the photograph. Basically, in the film days, you get reverse negatives or just wrong player kind of stuff, whatever. Like the photograph stuff. But then there's also type issues, like Steph is good at catching, where things can be just entered wrong. The wrong name or something can fall off just because someone typed it in wrong. And for most of the card history, this was all done by hand, effectively, rather than being on a computer. And so it's a lot easier to lose track of a period or something if it's just like one black dot when you're looking at a press sheet of 132 cards. It's like hard to find, like something can be covered up by whatever, or it's easy to miss little things like that. You can have issues with colors being wrong. We had a discussion about like the late 70s cards where in like 77, 78, 79, no, 77 and 79, for example, there's like one card in the team set might have the wrong color. Like there's a couple of Yankees cards that have green instead of black or black instead of green or something. There's a Giants card with pink instead of blue. There's cards like that, and many times these got caught later on. Like OPC would catch it and fix the color, or like the Burger King sets would have the right color in it. But it's just again this thing where like just the color ended up on the wrong printing plate. Effectively,
I can think of two examples. Joel Youngblood for the 87 Topps Giant, or no, I'm sorry, Jeff Robinson, 87 Topps Giants. His nameplate is red instead of orange.
Yep. And
then Mike Paga, I think is how his name. He was a Cardinal, and he's wearing his jersey's pink.
That could be an airbrushing problem.
Okay. Yeah, just those two, like, well, because 87 Topps is like I see all the cards in my head all day long, but those two stick out as like, there's something not right with this card.
Yeah, and it's hard because you have the team colors, but then you have to like keep track of that in the separations, which, you know, when you're actually setting the plates up, it's really hard to just really quickly tell which color is supposed to be what. In some ways, it's surprising they do as good a job as they do. But yeah, this is, you know, someone corrected that to say Bat Boy.
What is your what is your best guess of what happened with update? Because somebody asked me that question this week. They brought it up, and we talked about it previously on the show, and it's just frustrating because one, going through and trying to collate the set, and then all the cards are every which way, and it just drove me kind of a little nuts. It's not that big of a deal once it's in my binder or once it's in the box, but you know, as you're going through, it's a little frustrating. But what do you think happened in that printing process?
So nowadays with electronic printing, the pages come into the computer, and the computer is in charge of matching the front and backs. And and my guess with that one is that the backs were designed in horizontally, and possibly got printed horizontally. And then the fronts are designed either vertically or horizontally. But when they get taken into, I have to be careful not to drop into print lingo here. When they get taken into the computer that's in charge of actually assembling everything, and you put them in their places, someone's in charge of rotating the cards so they fit in the right spot in the sheet. And so my guess is that somebody just rotated the backs the wrong direction, either one file or whatever. I mean, because if it was like if they ran a sheet backwards, they wouldn't back up correctly. You'd have like the back would be the wrong back problem.
Yeah, Jimmy called out, so Fred was in there, and it was Friday, and he was like, "Dude, this looks good. Let's go." We've seen a lot of this, I think, this year because with COVID going on, you know, they weren't able to work or be able to produce like they had been in the past, and we've seen a lot more. I know somebody sent out some stuff with Bowman Draft this year where the backs of the cards, a lot of them had some, they were off center. So, you know, it didn't start flush on the left-hand side. It started about third or quarter way into the back of the card. So, you know, I feel like it's just everything's been on such a quick timetable this year and not being able to do the same processes that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and it's possibly one where they're trying to proof stuff online, and you don't see stuff the same way as you can if you have to go to the print shop too.
Yeah.
No, there's lots. I mean, in any other year, I suspect they'd be printing more cards too, to deal with all like the retail shortages we've had. And like this year, it feels like it's been a perfect storm of just everything being super tight.
Yeah.
So I got some easy examples for you as far as some print stuff, and I want to run them by you. I think at some point or another I've shared these with you, but for example, you see this occasionally on eBay where someone says, well, this is the shaded face error version versus the normal corrected version because there's not a shadow. Is that just an issue with the print or the plates, or
that's an on-press problem? If I had to guess, I'd say it was. I'll say what I'll use the official term, and I'd say it's probably a fountain problem. In that, printing basically works on the function of oil and water, where the print plates are wax based, like it actually attracts oil, and then in order for it to print, you have to make the plate wet, and then you put the ink on, and the water beads off the wax, the oily part, and then you put the ink on its oil base, and that sticks to the oil part, and that's how you transfer the ink from the plate to the blanket to the paper.
Would that be why maybe the bottom down here is also bled through?
And so the card on the left here, for example, there is blue pretty much up the whole right half of that card, not just in certain parts. And that to me means that there was probably not enough water on the plate to repel the blue ink in that part.
Interesting.
And so I didn't actually run a press shop. I was working in the front, but I had to work with the press guys a decent amount. I was working in pre-press. And yeah, so that to me that suggests that there was a problem on press and there was something in the water, like not enough, or it got a little bit contaminated or something. So the ink didn't actually work. It didn't get inked as correctly as it should. That's like the opposite of the problem is the Frank Thomas no name quote unquote error, where something was on the plate or the blanket that kept ink from the black ink from getting put in there.
In place of it, right?
Yeah.
And I think we've discussed these plenty. And I have several people that want to take a hit out on me on Trading Card TV for creating all of the quote unquote needless variations. However,
you can filter those out now because they fixed it, or
they have. Indeed.
Yes. So if you go to the full team set, the team sets are still busted, but the overall checklist, you can actually just say hide all that crap, and you just get it one name per
It says F. Stephen Loeffler, or we're calling him now Kelly.
Long story. But I think we discussed that these were either corrections that were made late and or the factory hits, not necessarily in Stadium Club's case, but
yeah, those I can't answer. That's I have no idea what those correspond to.
And why are these all twins, by the way?
It's just the pictures I saved. They're not all twins. This one's more for top selection purposes. Apparently, they tested a version wherein the player's head would actually pop up and over the border. And there's only like one or two of these for the different players. There's a Mattingly. There's a couple other players. What's his name? Sports reporter dude. It has a few of them in his personal collection.
Olbermann we're talking, or?
Thank you. Olbermann. What's his name? Sports reporter dude. Yes, that.
Again, another trend.
Guy who has all the weird top stuff, yes. I will say, if you go back to the 84 real quick,
sure.
It does not surprise me at all that they did not have the head sticking out of the frame. Or is that
the regular is behind it.
This is like this one's the regular, and the other one with the head sticking out of the frame was what they wanted, what they thought about doing.
Yes,
that's a lot more work, especially in 1984, because you have to basically overlap it, like trace the outline and overlap it with the other photo.
Okay, I see what you mean.
And so this is part of the reason why when you actually start to look at 1988's design, for example, all of the three-dimensional effects that they do where they have the player over the team name on top of the photo again is actually a ridiculous amount of handwork to do for something that people don't even notice.
The infamous oil can Boyd 91 tops where his hand got spray painted and re-spray painted and moved out. Yeah,
that like all that stuff is pre-computers. That stuff is doing that on 4 plates is really hard. Doing it on 1 plate, where like in 1987 Fleer, or where it's just on the cyan, sort of like it still work, but it's easier because it's only one color they're doing it on. Doing it on white, like in like 1964 tops, whites doesn't really matter. But when you start overlapping it onto another photo, you have to deal with a lot more masking than just a square, and that's.
Yeah, so this is the 82 blacklist, right?
Yep. And that's probably just a print screw up too. They ran out of ink, or they ran lighter, or something.
I think those look so much better than the regular 82s, by the way.
With the facsimile signature?
Yeah.
It's interesting to note how little black is actually in the photo.
Yeah.
And it does vary depending on year. there is a post I did about comparing 71 to 72 in this case, because Topps used the same photo for the Rangers and Senators to do the same photo. And you can see they actually did two different color separations for it, where the one in 72 has a lot more black in it than one in 1971. But in a general sense, there's not the black is used for just the smallest shadow detail in a photo. In these cases, there's usually very little black ink in the pictures, and it's just to kind of pop the shadow detail.
What are your thoughts on printing plates as collectibles?
I like them personally, and in terms of professional interest, I would never spend the money for one. I like that. They're kind of. I like them because, as someone who likes to look at cards and figure out how they were printed, they are that tactile evidence of actually what Topps did and how they printed it. Seeing the pictures of like the chrome printing plates versus the regular printing plates, and how the chrome ones are reversed and the regular ones are not, caused me to realize that how they print chrome is very, very different than how they print regular cards. And I sent me on a massive dive into the patent archive to actually find how they print chrome and everything else. So there's a lot of cool stuff on the plates that I like. Treating them as one-of-one collectibles that need that markup for, part of the rainbow or whatever else, it's not for me.
Are they true one-of-ones? Because since there's 4 plates.
Or are they 4 of 4s?
So each plate is distinct in this case. Each color plate should be distinct. And then there actually should be more than 4 colors for a lot of the cards now. I don't know if they did printing plates in Heritage last year, for example, but the 2019 Heritage, for example, had at least 5 colors that were being used instead of 4. Although one of the colors would be a really boring plate because it would just be the border. Although you would have the player name. But when talking about stuff like one-of-one, one of the things that I tend to kind of keep in mind is that one-of-one is an additioning number, not an actual how many exist in the world. And so treating it as this was released to the public in an addition of 1 is how I view one-on-one kind of things. And so in that case, the printing plates, it's a set of 4 in general, but I would call, but they're released at there's only 1 of each color out there, and each plate is distinct. Topps probably has more than just that 1 printing plate in its vault. And I don't think that there's only 1 press running a sheet of cards.
Yeah.
Out there. Like they probably have multiple presses doing multiple sheets at a time, but they're very clearly only releasing 1 of each color out there.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think if you have a guy or and you pick up 1 or 2, then that's cool. I don't see the because there's a falsehood behind it, because there has to be more than that 1, and why would they send the only 1 out, right? We always ask everybody that's on the show, if you could only own 1 card that you currently own, what card would it be and why?
So I'm going to pull a Ben on this one and have 2 cards.
Ben.
And this is why I was working on the sharing the screen. I'll pull the first one up.
Sure.
And the reason why is there's a story behind each of these. So do the first one, which is this guy. And this is one where my dad didn't cut cards and anything else. And much to my disappointment as a kid, there were no sort of old cards that I ever found as a kid. But I was digging through my grandmother's house, as sort of all of us do, looking for, old coins or whatever other kind of kid treasures you could find. And this one fell out of a pile of stationery and other things in her desk, on my grandfather's desk. And so this was in the early 90s, and instantly became, my oldest card, and sort of was my oldest card until actually this year still. And it was just really cool to kind of have this card I found at my grandmother's house as a kid. It's the San Francisco Seals, which, is also really cool for someone from the Bay Area. And then it turned out that Del Baker actually coached the Boston Red Sox into like 1960s. So I have this with, his 1960 Topps card, and it's a nice pair and everything else in the binder. And so that's a card that reminds me of my youth and my grandmother's house and everything else. And it's probably been my favorite card in my collection for, I guess, decades.
That's very cool.
And so that's one. And let's see. The other favorite card is, let me pull it up. This guy. Something completely different. And this is one that is also one that reminds me of family. And so where the first card reminds me of, myself being a kid and my grandparents' house and everything else, this is one where I went to a Trenton Thunder game for Little League night with my eldest son a couple years ago now. And he had just started getting the baseball cards and was kind of starting to make noise. He wanted to like hang out after the game, try to get autographs and everything else. And so I made a deal that, if there was enough time, the game ended early enough, we would, go hang out by the clubhouse after the game and try to get some autographs. This was a night game. And so the game was a really, really good game. Like the Trenton pitcher had like a no-hitter through 7 innings, and the game was only 2 hours long as a result. And so it made it really easy to like, okay, got plenty of time. We're not even going to be that late. Let's go hang out by the clubhouse and see what happens. And so he was there, and kind of, I got to watch him start off really nervous and sort of get more into it, asking the players for autographs. He was getting them all on his program, keeping it simple. But I had brought this with me because I could not try to get this signed by Jay Bell, who was the manager that year. And so my son is getting autographs and getting more into it and excited and having fun, and kind of everybody else was there, was enjoying watching him. And then when Jay Bell came out last, he was greeted by my son. Was like, "My dad has a picture of you with a cow." And so this card is that card, and pretty much reminds me of watching that night and watching my son just get hooked on the whole experience of the fan autographs, just hanging out at the ballpark and the whole thing. And so I can't really pick between the two of them, and so one's me as a kid, one's my son as a kid, and that's
perfect. I mean, and who celebrates 93 triple play with Jay Bell milking a cow at the old Three Rivers? That's pretty awesome.
Also, and of course, you got to ask: did he automatically know which one you were talking about when you mentioned cow?
That I don't know. Although he did start laughing when he saw the card. Kind of, it's like that was a long time ago kind of reaction.
Yeah. That's to have oddball stuff. That is some of the best. People remember that. I remember Barry Sanders said there was a guy that had him autograph a urinal from the old Pontiac Silverdome. When they tore down, he bought a urinal and he had Barry Sanders autograph it, and Barry still talks about it because it's. Who carries around a urinal? And this guy waited for like an hour or so to get the autograph holding the urinal.
What do you do with it afterwards?
I don't know, but I mean, like.
And what do you sign it with to get to stay on the
port? And think of all the beer and the over the years.
You put it out of commission afterwards.
Well, you figure you also have to pre-wash it, right? I mean,
yeah. Anyway, it just no, that's really cool. Well, Nick, it was so great to have you on site. If you want to hang out with us.
I will hang as long as I stay awake.
There we go. Hey, cool. It's okay because Steph's fallen asleep before during the show, so it's all right. So once, but still.
The kids have a snow day tomorrow, so it's hopefully everybody will sleep in.
And I used to have when I lived in Kansas, you'd look and go, "Come on, say our school, say our school." So, kids in California don't know what that's about, but hands down, one of the greatest days is like when you would have a snow day and then you're outside all day freezing. I didn't
know if it would happen this year because they're all on virtual schooling, but everybody was like, "Oh, if you get 6 inches tonight, it's snow day," and we hit that about 7 o'clock, and I was like, "Okay."
Wow.
So, two quick ones to run by you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
These are all. This one's more common throughout the entire year. I've seen examples from National League, American League, Essentially just the players. I haven't seen a team card, but it looks like the one of the colors didn't get filled in all the way.
Yeah,
What?
the magenta got masked incorrectly, basically, and they got stripped together.
And then for those of us who aren't in printing,
Well, how in depth do you want? So I guess I'll say there are based on the printing plate conversation, there are 4 colors that are used to print, and so cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And in this case, it's that dark purple color is what you get when you combine cyan and magenta. And since you can see that light blue above it, the cyan's still there, but that magenta didn't make it. And so when I say it didn't get masked, when sheets are laid out for printing or for burning the printing plate, it's oftentimes many pieces of film, basically black and white images of the photo, of like just the magenta part of the photo, just the magenta part of the border, etc., that are kind of all put together, layered on top of each other, taped together, held together, like taped onto paper and everything else. And it would be pretty easy to have just some of the image get covered up by the paper that's kind of holding everything in place. And so in this case, that's probably what it is. Is just like that's supposed to be like whoever stripped it together just missed it. It was overlapped that far.
interesting.
What's the other one you had, Steph?
So on this card and only this card, it's the start of the Topps High series. This card in particular got a extra rung of black on one of the stars. So on a regular 52 Topps, they have the 2 red stars right here, whereas this one has a black. And it's only in that one spot that there's extra black.
I would qualify that as similar to the color mess-ups in the 1970s, where just something ended up on the wrong plate accidentally.
Steph, you have the most obscure questions.
When you're doing these for printing, what happens is that you're looking at each color individually. So you're looking at an entire sheet of just what's going to be red in this case, or what's going to be black. And so if something gets accidentally stripped onto the wrong color, you got to have pretty good eyes to see it, because it's not going to jump out as being the wrong color. It's just going to be one bit of black information, one more bit of black information that's not supposed to be there, or maybe something that should be there that's not there. But in this case, it's like for whatever reason the graphic for that star ended up on the black plate as well by accident.
Interesting. And then one from chat. 1999 Topps Roger Clemens. They were asking why the back is flipped differently or orientated differently than all of the rest.
I might need a picture, or is this like the 2020 update backs?
I'm pulling it up. I believe it's like the update where just this one card in particular is swapped. Base 203 U.
Well, Roger Clemens is a Blue Jay, right?
Yep.
And so when you hold the card, one of them, it just happens to be upside down compared to the rest.
I believe so.
Yeah. Probably something similar to update. 1999 should be a digital workflow by then of some sort, where basically you're designing one thing vertical and the other one horizontal, and when you have to back them up together, you can rotate one incorrectly. I do know that I forget what year it is. I want to say it's 96 or 97. I have some cards that are where the backs are, the back orientation is different from on the same card.
Huh.
Like in their Topps cards from the mid 90s, but it's behaving like 87 Donruss.
Okay.
And
Factory versus retail.
probably. And I don't know if that's intentional or just somebody whoever laid it out
Messed up.
just didn't or messed up or I mean, do they reprint? Do they like I don't know. Do they reprint the factory sets after the initial one for Series 1 or whatever, or is it?
Depends if you're Upper Deck in 1989, allegedly.
Or what was it? Yeah, they're still printing Triple Play from 2013 still. It's still being printed. I don't know. And that's interesting. I always thought the 87 was on purpose just so it differentiate from the other ones, but who knows? So let's hop into it. The week that was last week's releases. Topps Living Week 144. Card 369, Michael Conforto of the New York Mets, sold just over 1,800. And card 370, Willie Castro, rookie shortstop of the Detroit Tigers, was just a few shy of 1,900. We also had 2020 Topps Stadium Club Chrome Baseball Drop and 2020 Bowman Draft Super Jumbo and Jumbo Drop as well. I wasn't too surprised with the numbers on the Conforto and Castro. I mean, those are pretty solid numbers compared to what we've seen. So, not bad looking. We'll hop into hot off the presses this week's new releases. Topps Living Week 145. Card 371, Aaron Nola, pitcher, Philadelphia Phillies. And card 372, Ronaldo Nunez, DH, Baltimore Orioles. He was a former egg, isn't that correct? Yes.
Isn't everyone a former A?
Eventually, yeah. No, yeah, he was a hot prospect for a while, and then kind of Matt Chapman came out of nowhere, and then they designated him for assignment, and the Rangers grabbed him, and then they DFA'd him, and he ended up in Baltimore, and had some good power numbers, but like so many guys, I mean, are you paying for power, or do you figure you can get, enough power elsewhere when you get defense and on-base percentage as well? So he's a free agent now. Somebody brought up that's a fellow A's fan, because I said this is the first XA that I have no desire to buy, and he's like, that picture must have been drawn quite some time ago, because Nunez is now a free agent, or else probably aren't going to bring him back. So, some of the other ones.
They didn't give him the Bartolo Colon treatment, though.
He had some decent power numbers, and he was really one of the only guys in Baltimore that you would have, current guys that you would make. So it's like maybe they had her draw him back in June, and then it's just now, well, shoot, we need to get this out before he signs somewhere.
Well, and we can finally complete the Nola Brothers series, because Austin already had his card out, and now you have Aaron. Mm-hmm. And, so there's that. I love when they have sunglasses, because the reflections in the sunglasses, just that detail is really awesome. So
a lot like the facial hair, when she does the detail on the facial hair, same thing with the sunglasses. It's just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, you got some good lettuce back there too.
She really is just a supremely talented artist.
1920 Hoops Premium Stock Hybrid Basketball dropped today. $330 a box, 4 packs per box, 6 cards per pack. You're going to receive 2 silver prisms, 5 additional prisms, and 1 rookie variation. It's a 300 card base set. This is similar to what Optic did for Donruss in the Contenders line. Hoops Premium Stock takes the original set and they dip it in the chromium technology of Panini. There are autographs available, but they're not guaranteed at any box levels. It's kind of an update of sorts, because they've added new action photography for players that transition teams from Hoops that dropped earlier this year. And also the rookies get some action shots, and they're no longer the photos from the rookie debut or the rookie session that they have with the players. So from the rookie shoot around or whatever they call it. So
if you come up a couple of dollars short at Kroger or your grocery store, just ask this guy. Kind of in the news yesterday.
Yeah. I'm so glad he signed the Supermax. He's staying in Milwaukee, and he's not going to go to somewhere stupid like Orlando or Miami or some rando, the Lakers, the Knicks. He would never come to Sacramento. Let's be honest. We might be able to get his brother Giannis, but
not until he's like 37, and that contract is horrendous, and they've got to move off of it. And then,
hey, it's only 5 years.
He ends up here. On a, that's only if Vlade was still the GM.
Hey, we got Kyle Guy, baby. Buy all your Kyle Guy cards right now. Also this week coming out, 2020 Panini Immaculate Football drops Friday. only $780 a box. You're going to get one pack, 6 cards in that pack, 5 autographs and/or mem cards, 1 base or parallel card. There's 141 cards in the set. It's one of the first super premium releases of the year. Not every card has an on-card autograph, which is disappointing when it's this high of a release. But the rookie autograph patch cards have always been a big part of it. They have the premium. They also have the premium rookie patch autographs, and those have they're numbered to 99 or less. They have a new one called Cleat Impressions, focusing on a player's footwear, and those are similar to the sneaker spotlights from Noir Basketball. And then signature moves.
And I'm not understating this at all. Panini loves their shoes.
Yeah.
And their shoe collection.
Yeah. They have signature moves that pairs a highlight play with a player's hard on-card signature. There's also autographs of Immaculate Hall of Fame, Immaculate moves, Immaculate introductions, all-time great signatures and comeback signatures. And there's plenty of material, as Steph talked about earlier. There's cleats. There's all kinds of parts of the cleats. NFL logo shields, brand logos, jackets, helmets, footballs, pretty much anything on a football field that, I'm waiting for them to come out the game-used IV bag relic. If you guys remember.
Tossed iPad Surface Pro.
Yeah. Game-used Gatorade cup. Now we're giving them too many ideas. But those are the 2 releases this week. There were supposed to be some others, but they all got pushed back. Make sure you check out Ryan Cracknell's articles on Becca.com/news for more detail on all these releases. What's brewing next week's releases? 1920 Panini Flawless Basketball, 2020 Panini Obsidian Football, and 2020 Bowman's Mess all come out next Wednesday, as Friday is a holiday. And still no date on Transcendent. It still says to be determined in December, but we're running out of days in December, so we shall see. Let's hop into Infield Chatter, our hobby talk section of the show. Bread and butter here. I love this part. Our buddy Serbia Sports tweeted out an interesting poll. If the price was not an option, which card would you want? And he had, earlier he had 71 votes. It's up to 96 votes. You get a 09 Trout, the Trout Super, 52 Mantle PSA 10, a T206 Wagner 8, or an 03 Exquisite LeBron logo. Man, which one are you going with? I selected the Mantle, and 41.2% of the people have hopped in and said, I'm going to take the Mantle as well. The Trout Super is tied with the Wagner, and then LeBron comes in in 4th place there. Well, guys, which one are you taking? Steph just voted he take the Wagner.
Always got to go vintage. It's close second behind Mantle, maybe in popularity, just because of its age. However, value and place in the hobby, Wagner for sure.
I still think the Mantle.
Wagner,
which one are you going with?
Wagner.
Lucky. It's the 51 Bowman.
Yeah, I selected Wagner, and then after I clicked, I was like, man, I should have chose the Mantle. But then I thought, no, the Wagner's the right answer here because not only is it the oldest by a considerable margin, there's a serious void of, every card is finite, but this one is like seriously finite. There's only a small handful of these. You could still find a 1952 Topps 4, Mantle, right?
This is a 10. 10. By the way, I think
8 Cobb in a 10 Mantle are identical.
I think Billy Bob was based on Ken Kinsley. I have no proof, but I believe that's true. Kevin Jones in the chat, one of my faves, says Ben's choice 89 Topps Walt Weiss. That sounds about right.
I don't know why Serbia, who loves to troll me and I think is coming on the show very soon,
did not put 85 McGuire.
Did not put 85 or 87 McGuire on there just to be a jerkwad. Yeah. So,
Ghost autos are a big thing now. At OT Cards tweeted, I had a customer message me saying they had a monster out of Update Jumbo. It's a great card, but there's a slight problem. It's one of those Derek Jeter patch cards. We talked about the 1 out of 2 a few months back, but this is the 2 out of 2. So jersey number, great little, Derek Jeter 2020 patch, autograph issue, but there's no autograph.
Thanks,
So
Tubbs.
both the 1 of 2 and the 2 of 2 of the same card, missing autographs. It's not like they don't have a 1,000 extra autographs of Derek Jeter hanging out there, because every day I see something new on Topps.com about get your Derek Jeter autograph. So, maybe they can just FedEx out a sticker and you can place it yourself. So, but I just, just another example of just these things are being missed, and it's crazy, especially on something like this.
It's a little thing, right? But then when you look at what it is, you go, well, it's not quite so little if you're the one holding that card going, where
if it was an Aaron Nola autograph, you'd be like, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's still the principle. I mean, let's be fair. A card is a card, right? But man, we know how much they're just pissing Derek Jeter stuff out all year to pay for that exclusive deal they had with him. And here it's a nice looking card. It's a great $8 card, but then you slap that auto on there and it turns into a couple $100.
It's jersey, hashtag jersey number.
Yeah,
that 1 of 1 in there.
Yeah. Marlon's great.
Hey, you know what though? Did they not surprise some people this year? Let's be honest, right?
They did, and hiring Kim Ng as their general manager, bravo. I mean, just what a phenomenal hire. She should have been hired many years ago.
Yeah, over a decade late on that one.
Yeah, but at least it's happening. We're getting some, thing. And like I said, I'm pulling for Becky Hammond to take over the Spurs or Sacramento.
Been saying that for years.
She's like, oh man, you know who? I'm going to put another name out there for you, Kara Lawson.
Yeah, there's another one. I think Becky Hammond's going to pave the way in the NBA, and I think it's going to be a team like the Spurs who have this mindset of this is our way.
Best person.
This is what we do. They I don't want to say they don't care. They care, right? To the point where it's like if she's the most qualified, they've let a lot of talent walk out that door, but they've not let her walk
go.
out.
No.
And I think she's the heir apparent. And the reason that Tim Duncan got to coach a couple of games in Popovich's absence was I don't think Pop wanted her first game to be a replacement in game number 47 in the middle of a season. But I think as soon as she gets hired, now Kim Ng's in Miami, I think now that she's there, you're going to start seeing, more female coaches being considered in a male dominant or male exclusive sport. I think Becky Hammond's going to be the trailblazer. And I think within another 10 years, you're going to see, I think the NFL might be the last one to go that direction. But then you have somebody like Amy Trask, who's considered a top front runner if they ever replace Roger Goodell. A lot of people want to see her in the NFL commissioner's seat. So
let's see.
I mean, I'm just going to say, Cheryl Reeve can exactly do a worse job for the Timberwolves than some of the coaches we've had. Bring her in. Not that she's amenable to it, obviously, but winning Collectibility of the Year, Coach of the Year, GM, championships left and right.
I think the beauty of Becky Hammond in Sacramento or San Antonio versus Sacramento, no offense to our hometown here, is they've got the 5 championships. They've had all of this success.
Oh yeah, they have she's been there. She's been around that organization, and she has that. They're kind of like the Patriots. There's this mentality to certain organizations that they have, and while certain people are still there, it's still bred through. And I think we're going to see a big fall off the Patriots once Belichick leaves. I just don't think they have the people there. But I want to.
The national support behind her in San Antonio would be so much more significant than if she comes here to Sacramento and she fails. She'll just be okay. She's just another Luke Walton and another Dave Yeager and another Ty Corbin.
Ty Corbin. Oh yeah,
she's just another. George Karl. She's just another name in a lineage of failures. And some of these guys have had success, right? Dave Yeager and obviously George Karl had success. I mean, elsewhere. I think they're, though, and she's still going to be she's still got R.C. Buford, and she's still got Greg Popovich, who will be there in the front office when he retires from the bench. I mean, I think that's the perfect place for her. And you want her to succeed because that's going to open up the door for so many other qualified, not just women, but minorities in other sports where there's a devoid of that all over all four of the major sports in the front office and along the sidelines.
Yep. Speaking of, we talked about him earlier, Mr. Supermax, Giannis. There was a great picture at let's see, it was the Card Club Co. tweeted out, how much are you paying for this collection? And it was, like 10? Perfect. 10 10s, BGS graded 10 Giannis rookies. I mean, there's like a blue, a red, a couple of red, white, and blue, some kind of a blue, light blue, teal die cut, an orange, a silver, a green. Just some craziness. Yeah.
Much like the dinosaurs from the prehistoric eras, $350.
$350?
No, $3.50.
Oh, okay. No, I mean that's just a crazy amount of just seeing that together. I mean that's right now. That's really nice, and it would be hard for me not to part with like half of those cards and just keep a couple, right? Like Nick, if you had those, right, and somebody was offering you like a ransom bag full of cash to take their pick of 5, you're not saying no, right?
I'm not big on the parallel, so I would probably take the money and go vintage with it. But when I see all the colors together, I do see why people like them. But yeah, that's another one that has never really been my thing on any of the cards, actually.
Yeah. See, me either. I'm like, I want the base card. I'm great with that, and then the rest because people are trying to chase down the numbers. Sell those off, and I can go get more of my base. And
most of them, like if they had like a team color parallel and stuff instead of just like a bazillion different colors for every single player, I could see that being fun. But for most of the parallels, the color doesn't even work with like the card design or the photo, and it's sort of just
if it's not team color type thing.
If they're purple and it's a green parallel, it doesn't look all that great.
Like if you're a Kansas City Royals fan and you're wearing a green Kansas City.
Somehow my shirt looks green tonight. Yeah.
But it's one of those things
really
too.
Pissing me off too.
Hold up a big red piece of paper and maybe it'll switch on you.
What would you pay for that? Well, the answer for most of us is $0 because we're probably not interested in buying it. It's a very finite market for one who would buy it graded 10 of the best player currently playing in the NBA. It's a multiple of 10 if you're buying the entire collection. The bottom line
shooting for 10s is also, a lot of us don't really care about that either.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think the market would be much thinner for this than you might consider. And then the other thing too is how much money does the person have into it? Do they buy it as is and just collect them, or did they just get lucky and end up with 10 10s? You know what I'm saying? There's an associated cost. There's an acquisition cost here. What would you have to pay for it to pry it from their hands? And the bottom line is, how much money would they make off of it? Because we don't know how much money they've got vested in it,
especially right now.
Yeah, now would be
if it's something old, like if it legit, because we've heard Dan and Doug from Mojo Break, they used to give away 13, 14 Prism basketball packs as hitless credits. Like, oh, you didn't get a hit, we're going to send you a free pack. It's 13, 14 Prism basketball because no one wanted it. No one wanted it. And they go, how many Giannis did we get rid of?
Or Giannis even.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say, Giannis. Here we go. Sold twos. Go ahead.
Question from chat semi-related. Korean Cardboard asks, does Nick have a favorite card set design?
Oh. Favorite design? My standard answer for that is usually kind of a toss-up between 56 tops, 65 tops, and 91 tops. Although 53 Bowman is also legit. for what is that's the 53 Bowman is less about the design and more just that the photos in that set are generally excellent and usually better than most anything else we've gotten any cards since, actually.
I'm going to throw in an oddball one here as my personal answer. 09 OPG.
That one is nice. There's that one.
89 tops big.
Oh, I mean, you're going to get kicked off the show.
89 tops big is good. It's definitely playing in the 1956 tops waters. But it's some fun update.
It doesn't fit in anything.
No.
8 pocket sheets.
Yeah.
Who has 8 pocket sheets laying around?
Everybody.
That's right. You don't collect New York Giants cards. No, any of us who collect stuff that comes before 1957 has a bunch of those.
It's just like why anybody that collects tobacco cards is set ready to go for Ginter X minis and Allen and Ginter Chrome minis, and I already have that. I don't need to go out and get those supplies because I've got them because I collect tobacco cards.
You can find any supplies. Let's be honest. Sold Too Low at Alex Hobby 1 on Twitter says an eBay seller to block. What's the Twitter handle to repost these morons? He got a note back from Garpor-2 on eBay, who has a 6 feedback, by the way. It was a Darius Baisley rookie lot, optic, hollow, mosaic, disco, and select concourse. Hey, man, didn't realize how low in price this lot sold for. The Baisley hollow is doing like 65 alone, and the fast break's like 35. Really wanted to sell those for at least 90 on the minimum for the 3. Would you be willing to send a little more to get a fair price? If not, I can just refund you, no problem. Let me know. I have some other cards if you're interested. I'm sorry, what? You sold the cards and the guy paid, and now because you lost out because you didn't price them right. What? How do you not just huh? That hurts. That's
the amount of insane asks that sellers and marketplaces get from people like this is through the roof right now. And just insane asks like that and expecting to get it is also through the roof. I mean, earlier today I was answering someone's question on, hey, can you guys help us redeem a redemption from 2006-07 Fleer Ultra?
Okay.
I'm not Upper Deck, sorry. Second of all, no. Third, good luck. And I mean, I can understand, if I'd worked for Upper Deck, hey, maybe I can help you in that case. Throw your name in whatever random basket they have or whatever random whatever, and maybe you get something or just toss them a couple free packs. Okay. But still green. Yeah. But I'm not surprised.
The audacity some of these people have. I mean, are you kidding me? The thing is, okay, I understand you have 6 feedback, so you're probably new. But when you're selling stuff, if you want a certain dollar amount, okay, say, hey, I want 150 for this lot or best offer. Don't run an auction, dummy.
Right.
The system's set up for you to pick how you want to sell it. If you sell it and the market tells you it's not worth what you wanted to get for it, maybe you shouldn't have sold it that way. Well,
and that's the thing. I mean, when we were just talking about this before the show, because I was in a conversation yesterday with telling people don't buy at this supremely inflated price. This kid from the Lakers that had one good preseason game,
Horton Tucker.
When nobody's playing, so yeah, you're gonna get stats, but that doesn't mean that he's gonna play once the season starts and LeBron and AD and other players are getting their 38, 42 minutes a night. And we get into this conversation, and he brings up my pin tweet on Twitter, which talks about eBay comps being the most fluid. It's but you also have to understand how to analyze a comp and understand what that number is telling you, whether it's an appreciation, it's a static, it's a depreciation. I mean, there's so many variables that come into play. You can't just look at a comp and say it's this. If you throw something at auction and it sells for X, That's what the comp is. I mean, that's the market within the 7-day window based on the buyers that saw it. Doesn't mean you have to like the price. There's a guy on eBay right now that's selling a Mark McGwire card from Update, a camo parallel that I would love to have as part of my rainbow. But you know what? He wants $60 for it. And he's had it, and it's on like a 24-hour auction. And for the last week, I've watched this thing renew unsold. You know why? Because it's not a $60 card. And I'm going to go ahead and assume most Mark McGwire collectors probably have seen it now, at least once, and have decided that's not the price point for it. You know, you throw it up at auction, it's probably going to sell for about $30.
Yeah, and I've gone away from. I have 0 auctions on my eBay store. I have thousands of cards on there, and I have everything at. If it's a single card, I have it at whatever price I'm willing to sell it for or best offer. And I don't have deny any offer on there, and I'm willing to see what people are asking for it. And if they come back most of the time with a reasonable offer, if they're within 65 to 70% of the card, if I've had it on there a while, I'm accepting. If it's something newer, I might wait. Oh, that sweatshirt! Get that sweatshirt off. We're not friends.
Oh, hey, we need that red sweatshirt. Maybe Tim's shirt will turn blue again.
I'm gonna block all of you. But no,
turning blue for you.
That's how I feel. That's
Probably a green screen setting. You have it set for a blue screen background.
That to me is the best way to go about it and to take offers. So I don't know. I mean, it's just.
I've said this so many times. Anything at 70% and above is a fair offer. Does not mean you have to accept it. But think about that. A $10 card that you're willing to part with for $10. If somebody says, I will pay $7, that is a absolutely fair offer. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean that you'll take a penny less than $10. Maybe for you, $9.99 is not an acceptable offer, but 70 cents to the dollar is a fair offer.
Thank you.
So,
That's the best.
Oh, so it really was blue this whole time.
Yeah. God dang it. I feel so stupid right now.
You had the chroma settings on, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, but
the thing is, and you can't, as a seller, you're really going to be like, yeah, sorry. That is. Oh, by the way, though, I have X other cards to sell to you too. So, real quick, this gives me the thing. You're talking about Torton Hucker. We're talking about Kyle Guy, who hit a game winner last night for the Kings. I mean, he was Mr. D League. He was, he was in everybody when they were opening packs of 1920 basketball. They'd be like, Kyle Guy, right? Tired of seeing this guy. And last night it was like, oh, good, gonna have all the Kyle Guys of the world. That is why in the last few years of basketball, anytime I opened any product, when I could find it or thought it was a reasonable price to purchase it, I took all of the rookies and I saved them. Because you never know what random thing is going to happen where a bull moment's going to happen. Or Demboya had a slam dunk for the Pistons, right? Whatever. This guy, he goes out and spotted having a Big Mac and somebody's like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I got to have his rookie card. Whatever it happens to be, that somebody gets a hair up their butt on it. Hey, there you go. I'm going to sell you this card that was sitting in a box back here that was worth $0.25 yesterday, but it's $5 a day. All day, baby.
I think maybe under current protocol, people would be selling if he gets spotted at McDonald's by himself outside the bubble.
Yeah, right.
I was talking to this seller, who came at me and he's like, "Why are you trashing my post?" And I'm like, "I'm not telling you not to try to capitalize on a hot market. If you could sell these 5 Tucker cards for $88, knowing damn well they were $1 a piece, if anybody even was willing to give you $1 yesterday, hey, good for you, man." What my point was when I quote tweeted him was, as a buyer, avoid this right now because there's literally nowhere for this card to go except for down. And hypothetically, let's assume I'm wrong for a moment and it continues to go up. At least now you know that you're buying a card with an established market. And now all of a sudden it really is, say, a $20 card. Yeah. Because right now you're just absolutely speculating on a 20x overnight.
What were they playing 4 NBA preseason games because the season tips off on Monday?
If that kid's still doing this stuff in January, and the Lakers are sitting at 9-1, and you have the big three, you got LeBron and AD, and you got Tucker. Hey, I will eat crow and say now's the time to consider buying him. And even if that does end up costing you more money, I've said it all along. I bought a Matt Chapman Bowman Chrome rookie auto from 2014. I bought it in 2018 after he had already been a pseudo established major league player. I probably could have got that card cheaper before, but now I'm paying prospect price, speculation price, as opposed to established or potentially established major league baseball player price.
Whose prospect cards I'm picking up right now? Will Myers and Bubba Starling.
I bet you are, and I bet you're
all the ones that everybody wanted. Alex Gordon cards. I tweeted this out the other day. I said, part of me wants to buy a Tyler Soderstrom Bowman draft auto. Part of me does, because I'm an A's collector, and it's an A's card. And then the smart part of my brain says, you can buy it in 2 years. Odds are he's going to get traded to the Royals anyway, because that's what we do with our prospects. We're going to trade him for the next Homer Bailey. In fact, you guys just signed Mike Minor to a 2-year deal, so odds are you're going to get Soderstrom next year at the trade deadline when he's got 2 months of rental time left, and the A's need to supplement the back half of their rotation. I'll go grab Tyler Soderstrom when he's the next Grant Green. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And if I've got to pay 3 times, 4 times as much, if it's a $150 auto that I could get right now for $25, so be it. But at least at that time, I know what his career might look like if he's the next idea. Sean Murphy.
Grant Green.
At the very least, you wait until they're not the next big thing, even if they are going to the pros.
Or buy it the day after they debut, because we all see once a prospect debuts.
Yep. No, Nico Horner is a guy that's in my Stanford PC, basically. And I've just been biding my time because he was hot 2 years ago. And I was like, I don't need to spend $60 or $100 on, his first Bowman Chrome auto.
Well, yeah, and now he has autographs in like everything from his rookie season.
And it's everywhere. And they're still more than I want, but they're, a fifth of what they were. And now he's actually in the majors, and it keeps going down.
I cannot allow any slander or libel against Grant Green. He shares both the same birth month, birthday, and birth year as me.
Anyway, a buddy of mine on Twitter, Jeff Sachet or Sash, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce his last name. He's got a degree in economics. He's a market analyst. And he and I have been having some conversations about something that I think would be phenomenal if we can pull it off, but we're going to need help. And probably from the three of you guys and maybe some others. We'd love to create a database running back to roughly 1990, give or take, maybe a little earlier, of maybe the top 5 to 7 prospects each year, the most highly sought after Greg Jeffries, Kevin Moss, Wander Francos of the world, and try to create kind of a quantitative timeline of what it would have cost you at that time to acquire, their top card or cards, right? Versus what you could have done a year from that point, 3 years from now,
like a 5-year window. What were they 5 years later?
We were trying to figure out, and granted, we're going to need some input of not just names. We really like to try to grab like 300 to 500 names over the course of a 30-plus year window. We don't want to go too much earlier, but right now it's just really in the early stages of a conversation. Of the hardest part is going to be trying to track down pricing models from the 90s potentially, because you didn't have eBay, and even nowadays
you almost could just do with Beckett value. I know you don't like Beckett fully, but it's not a bad way to go.
Ready to grab.
That was what you had, though, right?
Yep.
So
and people have the whole run because that is what it is. And the Beckett value, even if it's 30 days later, you're just looking for kind of an idea, a 1 year benchmark of how things are going.
And that's gonna. They, up until really the last 10 to 15 years, that was pretty much the standard that you had to go off of, right? Because and so that's going to be a majority of that run. you could go back and look at the hot rookies or indoor prospects from that year, pick 5 guys, and then go pull up, a late season Beckett from that year. Like say like if it was a 1990, look January 91 of what those prices were, or December of 90. It's a good idea.
1987 Fleer comes out, right, Tim? And this is going to be a card you absolutely probably wanted at that time. I know it's one that you hate in hindsight, but it's the 87 Fleer Kevin Seitzer rookie card, right? And I remember, in 87, that was like a $7 to $10 card.
Did he have a green jersey on that?
He did, absolutely. It was a Kansas City A's jersey. But that's kind of the idea, right? I mean, are we splitting hairs? $7, $10 back in 87. The idea being its fluid cost was roughly $7 at that time to acquire one in 87. What would it have been in 1990? And what is it in 2020? We know right now, back in January, whatever it was, Tim, when we went to that card show, I picked up a whole slew of them to trade to you, and I picked them up for a dime each. And I overpaid. But it was funny just to go back and say, oh, hey, I got you I'm over here getting all these Maguires and Consecas. You had a whole crap ton of like Terry 87 tops traded Terry Steinbachs. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to trade you all these 87 Fleer Seitzers for those.
That's right. I had all that was crazy.
But that's the idea being is if Seitzer to 87 to 90 tanked, what are we looking at when we're grabbing some random schmo from 2020?
Well,
Robert Dawson. Bobby Witt Jr. What are the odds of that?
A guy that hits me right now, and his name is not in my head, but he was third baseman recently for the Red Sox, and he went to the Brewers. Travis Shaw.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Like his rookie season, he was doing really well with the Sox, and his prices were up there, and then he got hurt, and then he wasn't the Red Sox anymore, and he ends up with the Brewers, and now it's like, who? Travis what?
Compiling the list of names is going to be the most challenging because it's going to be a subjective list, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to do.
It's just going to be kind of fun, and if we can get the data together, and like I said, the two of us aren't going to be the only two people putting this together. We're going to need help from quite a few different individuals to first compile the database.
You can
then go find the data.
Yeah, have everybody like 10, 12 guys, and everybody gets a handful of years, and
try to figure out
discussion.
And then once you have the data, then About the Cards can host a roundtable with a handful of people and say, okay, what does the data now tell us?
Yeah.
It's 2021.
If you're interested in this project, email us at aboutthecardspod@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter. I'd like to have a bigger discussion on that. It's very interesting. We can do a Zoom or something. No price, must be free. I hated that when I worked retail and, people, there's not a price, so it can't be free, huh? So I'm going to have Steph talk about this, but it was somebody named @BrotherTona on Twitter. Scanned a box, nothing happened. The clerk called the manager. They found the closest equivalent. He said, which he's suspect was a blaster box. It looked to be a hanger box of 2020 Prism football. And he didn't know that the rack was a rack box or something.
It was Prism. It was either draft or NFL.
Okay.
But so they shared the tweet and said, hey, look what I found. I got priced for such and such. Someone asked, hey, given the price, did you not scan them individually or did you just scan the entire box? Because he'd said that he got it for $20 or $40 or something to that effect. And he said, so I scanned the box and nothing happened. The clerk called the manager and the manager found the closest equivalent box, suspecting was a blaster box. So one, the manager just didn't know any better. Two, the clerk obviously had no idea, but he knew who to call. And they just priced it as such and such. And the impression that we got was that this guy was newer to the hobby, so he may not have known truly the difference himself. He just sees a box on the shelf, picks up the box. He knows the name Prism because it's a hot product, and runs with the price. And someone called him out and asked him, "Hey, so you stole them? And the price wasn't right." He goes, "No, I didn't even realize. It wasn't even brought to my attention until while I was at work afterwards." And someone mentioned I should check the contents. I'm going back to Prism to Target, I believe the store was, to rectify the situation because one, you don't want the clerk to lose their job. You don't want the distributor to lose their money, and yeah, sure, Target makes millions and millions of dollars, but they're still affecting individual people. You're not affecting Target.
There's something called hobby karma, by the way, as well. So
not seeing these updates, the show account quoted it and said, "Hey, pack perverts." Sure, they didn't actually touch any packs, but they wrote essentially the type of shady stuff that we like to call out under that hashtag. It's brought to our attention. We got a lot of heat for it. People calling us out saying, "No, you need to delete it." Brendan's actually really legit, great guy in the hobby. We didn't know him, not following him. I guess on my account, there's a lot of overlap. Maybe on Shep's account, there's some overlap, but on the show account, there wasn't that we noticed. And, he went back to the store. Props for him. Brought it to their attention and made whole with the store. Nice, likes Doom 2. Solid game. And the show account published an update saying, "Hey, naivety on seemingly everyone's part. Dude made right. That deserves some recognition because dude made right. And I hope his next box or pack pulls something super nice, super sweet. Hits a 1 of 10, or a 2 of 10, or 2 of 2. That's not a Jeter without a missing signature." But I mean, I worked retail in Albertsons for a long while, and like Shep says, oh, well, those peaches aren't ringing up, so I guess they're free. Ha! No, they're not. Sorry. If I have them for free, my manager is going to be on my butt. The store district manager is going to be on my butt.
I do wonder how much
get a deal.
What employee is on the hook for the self-checkout line, though? Because that sounds like what he did.
So self-checkout would probably be that they usually have someone that mans that lane. And nowadays, they wipe down each individual station after each person that passes through. But someone who checks the money, the manager for that department, naturally the distributor for the cards, the card section itself, wherever they plan to leave it this week, whether it's in toys, whether it's in entertainment, whether it's in the front of the store. I mean, there's a lot of people in that chain before it hits, Target corporate's money.
Well, and this guy might be a legitimate, contributor to the hobby. He might be a really nice guy. We don't know him personally. I know I can speak for myself that I had never encountered his Twitter account. But the way it came across in his initial tweet was almost bragging, at least how I interpreted it. Speaking for myself, it came across like I got over on Target. Good for me. I went to the McDonald's and I paid with a 10 and they gave me change for a 20. Free Happy Meal. It just kind of came like, hey, I got by. They rung it up as a blaster, and I know that I'm. That's how it came across to me, and so maybe he's a good dude, but it's like if that's really what happened, keep that to yourself. If you don't want to go back into the store and say, hey, we've all gotten home and realized something in our cart wasn't charged for. Do you drive back? There's that ethical dilemma each of us face from time to time. Somebody's got to pay for it. If somebody's register comes up short because they gave you too much change back, that could cost them their job, man. Mm-hmm. If this person gets written up or I mean, a lot of bad things can happen and we don't know what happens on the back end. But it does look like he went back to the store and made it right, regardless of our perception of that, whether we misinterpreted it or whether we interpreted it correctly. But if you're going to go on Twitter and you're going to put anything out there, I mean, it's not like Facebook where it might be isolated to just your friends being able to comment and see it. Twitter's for public consumption. And if you put something out there, you open yourself up to not just those following you, but everybody else that might see it. Yeah. Just be careful what you say because it made him look bad initially, at least to us. And that's why the About the Cards handle said, hey, this, and hey, that's also part of the thing is when we put something out there, whether it's on the podcast or whether it's on in your account as well, Nick, right? When you put something out there, Sometimes it's for debate. Sometimes we're not going to agree. We're not going to see through the same prism and through the same lens on everything. I'm an antagonist. I put stuff out there all the time and draw a line in the sand to create debate because I love to argue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes it does not go the right direction, and people that don't know me sometimes take it a different direction and avenue. But be careful what you put out there to begin with, because people are going to interpret it through their eyes and their prism and their personal experiences. And maybe somebody out there looks at it and goes, "Man, I work at a Target," and that's BS. And somebody else is out there
I work
like,
at a Target. Ugh. I worked at Target.
Well, that's why we wanted to address it. One, props for him for correcting it. Two, maybe now he takes a bigger interest and learns about the hobby more, so he knows that in this instance, yeah, I got a deal. But three, you know, we're not going to delete something that we said. We want it up for public record of, hey, we screwed up. And in addition, we posted the, hey, no, this requires being shown off.
Or maybe we didn't mess up. Maybe that's kind of a harsh word. Maybe we interpreted it at face value.
Right.
And maybe we didn't have all of the information about it. But, you know, again, you're only looking at it. I mean, how many times do you watch a movie trailer for 2 minutes? I remember watching Con Air when that trailer came out, and Nicolas Cage had a horrible accent and a bunch of dumb one-liners. And I was like, dude, this is going to be the worst movie ever. And now I've seen it 25 times, and it always chokes me up at the end when he meets his daughter for the first time. Great movie. But again, you're basing your – is that a good movie or not based off of a 2-minute prepared trailer enticing you to watch their movie at $11 a pop and $17 at the concession stand? You know, he put out a tweet, and it made him look really bad in the eyes of certain people, us being one of them.
I like I said, I believe in hobby karma, and so
definitely
doing something like that, you open the box and get skunked, or something bad is bound to come around. But also too, when you there was somebody on Twitter that was trying to finish out the update set from this year, and they needed like 10 cards, and I had 8 of them, and it said, hey, I have these 8, what's your address, I'll send them to you. And he's like, what do you want? I said, oh no, I got them, they're yours. And he goes, oh, that's awesome. He goes, earlier today somebody was looking for a card, and I sent it to them. And I'm like, see, I said, just, you know, pays it forward, right? Like you did something for someone else, and then I was able to do something for you. It just the way it happens, and you know, that's what I love about this. The one thing I say about Prism.
I helped a guy a little while ago that I had never talked to before, but a bunch of people tagged me. He was trying to appraise a Mark McGuire collection for a friend, somebody who was trying to sell it to make some ends meet. And unfortunately, we were talking about that last week with Greg when he was on the show. You know, he's like, hey, thanks, man. I was like, hey, you're a basketball card expert or have a lot of knowledge, just pay it forward. When somebody needs a basketball card question answered, they're not coming to me. You know, so when they come to you, just, hey, you pay it forward that way, right? Let's share our knowledge. And what it's going to do is, little by little, it's going to make all of us smarter.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and there's a good, in the history of Reddit, all-time posts, guy essentially saying that you know he used to every single time he'd get out to help someone who had the car broken down, or you know, the one time he missed it, he broke down just afterwards, and the guy who'd got his car currently back on the road comes and helps him out, and he says, don't worry, I'll help you out. And the basic understanding and the takeaway is that today you, tomorrow me.
Yeah,
right.
Today make it broken down, but tomorrow you can help me out.
Yeah. Speaking of Prism, we're just going to keep the presses on, baby, for Prism football. And I'm going to tell you why I think it's happening. Okay? And I want to see if this is true with how much restock we have of this. So I was watching a video of our buddy Big Game James Run Good Life on his YouTube page, which is fabulous because he's opening all kinds of new stuff, all the versions. He's trying to get his hands on it. It's a great way to see product. And he was opening 2020 Prism Blasters, and he brought up a very interesting fact about this year's Blasters. There are no autographs in the Blasters. There are 0 numbered parallels in the Blasters. Since they don't have to seed limited cards, limited numbered cards, or, you know, they don't have to give up extra assets, meaning the autographs. How much of this stuff do you think they can print?
Yes.
Does it not scream? Does it not scream like 89? We talked about earlier, 89 Upper Deck or 90 Don Russ, just Don Russ, as that awesome guy on TikTok, just like he pulled this awesome too. But that was at a hobby box. But no, he was he's got the 3 blasters there, and he goes through and he's just saying this, and I'm like, dude, like they could just print, because if they have a colored parallel, but it's not numbered, okay, cool, we can make as many of those as we need.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing was, we've seen them when they've guaranteed an autograph, like that guy that was doing, I forget which one it was last year, but he bought a case, and half the case, the autograph were points. So you can eliminate half of your autograph. You can double your production if half the box is points. Sure. Because points don't mean anything. Points are nothing. They're free to print.
And especially when you're talking retail, wherein, you know, for the at least the cello hangers, you've got 2 or 3 base, the single pack of however many are in them, but then you have a 3 or 4 card Prism special random color this year. I think it was Red, White, Blues. Well, okay, who's to say that Red, White, Blues are anything rare? Yeah,
they're just available in one certain configuration, you know. And so, and I saw James open. He bought a hobby box, right? And he opened the box, and he got the Tua autograph, amazing, right? But his other autograph was points. And I haven't seen a lot opened. I have not watched a lot. But what does that tell you? Like, they could legitimately put points in there to sub for an autograph in every box, and those are your 2 autographs. You have an autograph, and then you have your points. There you go. So it could just double the production right off the bat. So I'm just telling you guys. So this is a $20 blaster, okay? And if you're spending $50 or $75 or $100 on a $20 blaster, and there's no guaranteed limited numbered cards or autographs that they have to seed in there, think about how much they can print. And I'm not saying good, bad. I'm not telling you to spend your money. I'm just letting you know that we could look back in 3 years and go, man, they made a lot of that. And we've seen it with, one of the basketball releases. It still was popping up this last couple of weeks in retail. Mosaic. So, okay.
I kind of wish more people did this for retail, to be honest.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Get rid of the hits and just print the hell out of it, and just always be available.
Great for for set collectors.
As a parent, and you know, my kids have kind of passed out of cards a bit because they can't find anything.
Yeah, and I'm not against it, but I'm just saying people are spending $50 or $100 on a blaster when this stuff is in, or they're buying a two base card for $75 or $80 when they probably should be about $10 like normal, $15 or $20 like normal. So, you know,
if you took it in an Excel spreadsheet, right, and you just started to try to do the runs of like we knew, like, say, like baseball tops total, you had the 1 of 1, you had out of 5, and you had out of 10, and then you had, you know, so you knew you had to make 16 of each card before you started printing base, and then it was print to order. It limited how many of each wave was available in theory, right? If you're doing the math, in this case, if you have 100 autographs and there's, you know, 5,000 versions of each that we could verify, and you start to drag and drop in Excel, and we could probably go down and try to figure out a decent print run. And it's almost like Panini gets to that end and goes, but now when we supplement Panini points, you can pull it down. And then when you supplement the fact that all of retail is not going to have any of this stuff in it, you know, Excel can go on for infinity, ever, right? And it's like, so you get to that first.
There is a limit, but
there is a limit, but then, okay, cool. Guess what? Now I'm going to open up another tab, or I'll just open up another damn spreadsheet. You know, let's do the retail.
I just want to make, like, I'm just trying to make people aware of what could be happening. Because
it helps when you go below $50 and you're like, I got skunked. Yeah, you and the next 4,000 people that are overpaying for this crap.
Yeah, because I saw somebody open a $1,000 box of Prism, and it was doo-doo. Like, it was like their big rookie was a silver of a defensive lineman that was a 6th round draft pick. So
$1,000, you mean they spent marked up to $1,000, right?
Yeah, spent. Yeah, so it was So this was a $120 pre-order box. Okay, so say it's a $200 at normal retail, like, and not insane like I had like inflated prices that we have now. That's still a real big shot to the head. Like when you're like, oh, and see what I'm saying is, like, I don't think that if you're going to spend that money, then leave it sealed. Don't open it, because it's only going to devalue like driving a brand new car off the lot.
So you're
saying never going to be satisfied with what you're going to get out of that box, probably like 95, 98% of the time. I'm just letting you know.
So you're saying I should rip the other 12 and NBA Prism draft.
Sell them all.
Most boxes have a net return value of negative 50%. And I know that's just an arbitrary number, but 50% of your money is going to be lost and has to be wrapped up in just the thrill of opening the packs or collecting what's in there. A $20 box is created to be a $20 box with roughly $10 worth of cards in there. And that's subjective. $8, $12, $15, right?
Certain companies more.
You're not going to get $20 worth of resale value on the secondary market out of your average random. I'm going to grab a box. The four of us grab 4 boxes at random of 4 random products at a fully stocked retail shelf. We all grab a different sport. We open it up. The odds of us getting our $20 bills back is 0 for 4. If one of us do, we've beat the odds. So what the hell do you think when you go to that Facebook seller who's selling from his dining room table at $50 a box, you still are only going to get that $8 to $12 worth of cards out of there. You're going to be disappointed. But cool, the next Facebook post shows a Zion. I just pulled this out of a blaster. I don't know that. First off, unless it's retail exclusive, I can't confirm that that's where you pulled that. I don't know that you even pulled it out of a box. For all I know, you bought it on the secondary, right? Yeah. And then the thing is, for every 10 guys are going to post that, but the next 5,000 are not going to post and say, "Hey, I spent $50 and I bent over and took it." No, where are those posts? It's only cool when you get something neat, When I post something on Twitter about 1990 Topps Big, which now I've mentioned all 3 years of that on this episode, you know who hates it? Tim. But it's cool to me because no.
90 Topps Big is rough.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick.
88 and 89, I'm good with. 90.
It's the last year.
But the whole thing is, guys, we're not trying to tell you how to spend your money. We're just trying to what you expect, and I don't want you to be disappointed when you go in and you spend $1,000 on a box or $50 on a blaster, and you go and you're like, ugh, and you get that sick feeling. If there's something you truly want out of that set, or a guy you think you have a passion for, or you believe is the next big deal, just go buy it directly. Yeah, you might pay more. You might not get the most limited version, but at least it gets you in the door, right? Buying a Tua base versus getting the silver auto. Okay, yeah, it's not the same, but how many blasters or boxes do you have to open to get the 1 Tua rookie? And then how many more would you have to open to get the autograph? I'm just think big picture, and I love opening product, but I found so much more joy in taking that money and spreading it out over multiple cards and getting exactly what I want from the product as well. We're going to end the show here on the last topic. We have some other stuff, but we're going to move it to next week because it's kind of an evergreen thing. But because Christmas is up, we have 9 days for shopping left. Get out and shop. Here is our Christmas hobby wish list, guys. And I kind of want to make this like a rapid fire thing. So Ben, I know Ben has his answers already, so we're going to let him go first. But I have 4 spinning areas: 0 to 20, so like a stocking stuffer type thing, right? 20 to 50, 50 to 100, or 100 plus. What is something in those 4 areas that you, as a collector, like if your significant other, your family comes to you and said, "Hey, this is our price range for gifts this year," and then you'd go to this little list and go, "This is what I want." Ben, $0 to $20. What are you looking to buy? Or what would you like as a gift? I'm sorry.
Stack of any random junk wax era Maguires that I super PC.
Okay, $20 to $50.
parallel of Maguire that I'm looking for, something like, say, from a Topps Rip, where there's a couple of low-numbered parallels that I'd love to get if I could find them.
All right, 50 to 100. Somebody that kind of likes you a little bit more. So not your family.
Lower desirable Maguire auto. Most of the, you might catch a couple in the $70 to $90 range.
And you got $100 or more. Great Uncle Jerry's going to come by a big gift.
My first answer, of course, would be the 1909 T206 Plank, but a little more reasonable would be any of the 3 A's from 1933 DeLong. It was Cochran, Fox, and Lefty Grove. Yeah, I know you got 2 of them.
Got 2 high grade ones.
They're probably trimmed, but the 33 DeLong that I'm missing, each of them would probably be in the $150 to $500 range.
The high grade ones, nice.
And you'd have to find them raw because graded, anyway, they'd be between $200 to $500 each.
So they have to really like it. Steph, what is on your list for $0 to $20?
0 to 20, some random packs. Maybe Upper X Series 1, a misplaced box of Diamond Kings retail, even though I finished the set. Surprised me. Penny sleeve supplies.
20 to 50.
Another one of these.
10's nice. What are you doing for 50 to 100?
50 to 100, that's actually the preceding comment in private chat. I have a lead on an era-issued Walter Johnson for under 100.
Nice.
That I've been chasing for a long while.
What about 100 plus?
Well, I don't spend that on that, but
it's a gift. Someone's spending it for you, on you.
I'd have to go with something like memorabilia, maybe a custom last name jersey, maybe a signed bat for all of the 87 Twins guys, something like that.
All right, Nick, what are you doing for what would you put on the list for $0 to $20?
$0 to $20. Probably either something off my high numbers list, like a common high number cards that I'm looking for. I have a hard time spending that much money on some guy no one's ever heard of, but they're there.
What about 20 to 50?
20 to 50, either like 1960s Mays or the vintage rookie cards, like the McCovey or the Marichal, that are doable in that range, but are a stretch. Or alternatively, like a tobacco card common for the Giants.
50 to 100?
Probably the same, but sliding into the 50s.
All right. And then what about 100 plus?
I agree with Steph and something like a jersey or something like that. I had a Will Clark Mitchell and Ness that got stolen a couple years ago, and
the one that says Giants that has like
so it's from the '89 World Series design. Yeah, I mean, part of me is like upset, part of me like I can replace it. It's just money.
Yeah,
it's not like it's something that's not made anymore. But yeah, it's still a lot. So yeah. Something like that, or a Jeffrey Leonard or something from my youth kind of thing.
All right, nice. Yeah, for 20 to 0 to 20, a random if you could find any on the shelf, a random blaster, or some random packs from the shop. Go to the LCS. 20 to 50 would be any like 70s, Bretts. I have them all, but this would be the food issue. The non-Topps releases, some of the stuff that's in there that I haven't seen. 50 to 100 would be any of the Topps Willie Mazes that I would need for my team sets for from the late the late 50s to the through the 60s would be awesome. And to me, like, the condition wouldn't have to be perfect, the best, but to have the card. And then 100 plus would I'd want to do. Add to a really nice like George Brett autograph card. I have a couple. I'm not a real big autograph card guy, but like a really nice like bat or relic autograph card would be pretty cool to see as part of the collection. Like, my favorite one is a one from Upper Deck that I have, and it's numbered 1985 out of 2000. And 85 is the year they won the World Series. I didn't even realize it when I bought the card online until I got it in my hand. So But something like that.
Tack in a Roger Maris relic. Jumping off your answers.
Yeah. What is something that every collector would love to see in their stocking every year?
Retail.
I'd say eBay gift cards because I don't actually trust a lot of my family to actually buy stuff that not get ripped off.
There we go. Ben, what would you say for every collector?
Panini points.
I would say when you can find them supplies, penny sleeves or top loaders or a couple of one touches. Our favorite stuff, the perfect fit sleeve thingies. What are they called, Steph?
The sleeves that cover the graded slabs.
Superior fits. Superior fit sleeves. These things are gorgeous. They're perfect. They can't tell they're on the card or on your holder until you're touching it.
Their website's a little weird. It's only run like Monday to Friday, 8
but they're
to
so cheap.
But the product is so worth it.
Supplies for collectors are like putting batteries in a kid's stocking on Christmas morning, knowing damn well there's like 8 things under the tree that are going to need AA's, 9 volts, and D batteries.
Yeah. When I was a kid, that was like my favorite thing in there. You get some candy. My parents there'd be random oranges or an apple, but batteries, and then I'd get random packs of cards, like the best things. So just as we're getting ready
for the kids in their stocking.
By the way, every year I get a Willie Mays for my son. So I track down some kind of, and it's not even for me. Even if I don't have it in my collection, it goes to him, and he has another Willie Mays. So he's like 2.5, so he doesn't understand it yet. But he knows they're his cards, and if I touch them, I'm in trouble. Also, but that is our show tonight, everybody. And I want to say, Nick, thank you so much for hanging out. I know it's late for you, and we really appreciate the time and giving us background. Such an interesting background with the printing stuff, and to get. I know Steph always had. I love when Steph asks you questions about it because it's the most obscure thing, but it's fun to hear because a lot of people look and see these cards and they go how does that happen? I couldn't even imagine trying to figure out how to print on the Chrome cards. I don't even want to know because to me seems impossible.
Steph can show you.
Yeah,
I do have one last thing I'd like to share if we have another 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
My wife put together something homemade. She asked me for a stack of 1987 Topps wrappers. I don't know. She's got a second project going on, but she asked me for a stack of McGuire cards, and she's like, I'm going to cut them up. And I was like, well, let's grab the divorce papers if you think you're going to start throwing, sharp edges. But she took a stack of old junk wax era stuff that I have sitting in a box, and she was so excited she couldn't wait till Christmas to show it to me. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's a homemade. It's a wood piece. It's got 1-in-1 down here in the corner, and it says "Dad." The stitching was all hand done, which is just absolutely brilliant. And it's got some random Mark McGuire cards that she cut up. It was absolutely phenomenal.
That's super cool.
Choked up here a little bit. So, best gift she's ever given me. Made me outside, the kids or whatever.
That's awesome. I love pieces like that. I made you've seen the R I did for Robbie with his 87 Topps.
And before we go, can we share a cute little video we got? We one of our maybe our best viewer ever. And that's no offense to anybody out there listening who's ever listened. As soon as you see the video, you got it, Steph, before
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay.
That's great.
So all of our listeners can be 1B to her 1A. But it's Bayside Breaker's daughter, Andrew's daughter, Haley, who gets frustrated when she watches the show with Dad because we never talked to her directly. Last week we said hi to her, and as a way of saying thanks, they recorded a little video for us that we would like to share.
No, wait, sorry. Not with audio. 1 second.
The hell. God, you're a really bad producer.
Would you like to try it? You guys haven't even
He goes back in time, so he should know that he didn't have audio on in hindsight.
Yeah.
And this is this tab. That
It
button.
was great to see.
Full screen. Stop fighting me.
It was even better to hear.
It was fantastic to hear. Just do it small screen, as long as we can hear it.
Thanks for saying hi to me on the TV. I love it. That's awesome.
She is absolutely adorable. And like I said, it's hard to argue she's not our cutest fan at the very least. She's definitely our most loyal viewer. So thank you to Haley.
We're hitting all kinds of demographics on this show.
We really are. We've been in Korea. We found out that people listen to us in, what was it, Norway?
Canada.
We've got the toddler market, apparently. You know, we've got 3-year-olds watching us.
Australia, all over the place.
And hopefully you're not up watching this now because hopefully Dad's put you in bed. But we'll say hello again.
Yeah, when he shared that, it was like, that's too cool. I showed it to my wife Heather, and she's like, oh, and I'm like, that's really neat. So we really do appreciate as we go into the Christmas season everybody's support, of course. And in 3 weeks we will have been doing this show in 4 separate calendar years: 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Nick, where can we follow you, bud? Where can we get all your great information?
So my Twitter handle is @Vossbrink. It's sort of all over the map, so you kind of be ready for random stuff on there, although most of my content is in replies instead of the main feed. I do blog over at the SABR Baseball Cards blog. I also have my own blog at njwv.wordpress.com. I think it's .com, which is mostly baseball content, but does swing into other things like photography and art museums once those actually open again. But yeah, for now it's almost all baseball cards and either mail days I get in trades because I try to acknowledge everybody who sends me stuff, or weird trades, TTM returns, and weird pre-war stuff I get.
Very cool. Steph, anything before we head out?
Not that I can think of. Hope everyone has a great week, and as we roll into the holidays, be merry, but not too merry.
You guys on next week, or are you taking?
Yeah, we're on. No, we're on
Okay.
next week. We don't miss a beat.
I gotta say, it's getting close to Christmas Eve.
Yep. So we'll be touching that. So guys, remember, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube.
Central, 11 Eastern.
Make sure you subscribe.
Yeah, you usually watch it a couple days late.
Yeah, that's fine. And sometimes I forget I don't have time to put out the podcast instantly. So make sure to subscribe and review our show on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter about the cards. You can always follow Nick at Vossbrink. You can follow Ben at Our Trading Cards. Follow Steph at Junk Wax Twins. Follow me at Big Chef 79. Please share your hobby stories, great polls. Send your questions our way. Keep collecting, and we will see you next week.